What is happening, guys? My name is Jamie and today we are reviewing Mors Principium's new album, 7. Now that's all this album is called. I was really surprised that Mors Principium Est was actually going to release a new album. I am familiar with their work. Like, I really did enjoy their album Embers of a Dying World, so Liberation Equals Termination, and The Unborn, and also Inhumanity. So I was really looking forward to this album, to be honest, because I really enjoyed their stuff. In case you don't know, Mors Principium Est is a melodic death metal hailing from Finland, and they really remind me of bands such as Dark Tranquillity, Kalmar, at times even In Flames. At the Gates, really some juicy known bands to the genre of melodic death. And there is a heavy influence of symphonic metal on this album, but did it work? In case you don't know, Mors Principium really utilizes symphonic metal throughout their albums, and the previous album they also used a lot of orchestral moments. But in this album 7, their 7th studio album, they really made things epic and quite majestic. Now let's talk about one of the negatives of this album is the production. The production is one of the weakest components of the album. Just because the guitars sound thin, the drums sound mechanical, and the production is way too crisp for melodic death metal in my opinion. This whole album seems mechanical. It feels like this album has no depth. Like Embers of a Dying World, which had more depth and meat on the bone. This album is like a fucking bone without any meat. That's it. The production is not good. It's not good. It lacks the heaviness. The guitars sound thin. The tone is weird. It overall just makes it a really hollow, shallow experience listening to this album. The songwriting is very good. It's a shame the production didn't meet the songwriting, to be honest. The production is shit. It's shit. It lacks the heaviness. It's a very disappointing part. It really is, because some of these songs are absolute killers. They really are. But the production just lets it down. The production just feels lifeless. Very similar to the album Amaranth Manifest. It just feels like a lifeless album, and the production creates this lifeless moment. The production on the other albums were a lot better, were a lot rawer in tone. This album feels mechanical. Even the drums feel fucking mechanical. Everything just feels mechanical on this fucking album, and it's a shame. It really is, because I was really looking forward to listening to this album. I heard this album a few times and I said, yeah, it's good, but it's not great. It's not fucking great. In my opinion, this is their weakest album. I love all their other albums, and this album is just a very disappointing album in my opinion. Symphonic elements combined with the mellow death moments as well, which creates this epic sort of atmosphere, but again, the symphonic elements just seem synthetic. You got songs like A Day for Redemption, Lost in Starless Aeon, where you got some amazing guitar work, really nice lead tapping as well. You can't really hear the bass isn't as prominent. You got the overlaying guitars along with the tapping lead that just isn't really balanced. It just doesn't feel balanced, this whole entire album. And Lost in Starless Aeon is definitely a really good song in my opinion, just because of the tapping lead at the start and also the chorus and everything like that, with some really nice drawing guitar solos. But again, the production just makes everything stale and everything mechanical. Vocals on the other hand are very dynamic in range. I do really enjoy his vocals. The best part of this album are the awesome guitar work, but the overall rhythmic section, the rhythmic guitar is very thin in the mix in my opinion. There's not much meat on the rhythm guitars, which is disappointing. There's some really innovative riffs on this album as well, and I believe there are only 2 members in this band, and they really did very well with the riffs, although the riffs aren't as amazing as Bolt Throwers, Asphinx, Arglescent, or even In Flames riffs. Holy shit, the riffs on this album are one of the most creative riffs I've heard this year in my opinion, with a nice chord progression. This album does flow quite well, really does, being my favorite Rebirth, which incorporates more of a black metal feel. Very similar to bands such as Dimmu Borgir, incorporated symphonic elements, but I do love that chorus. The chorus is fantastic. He uses his dynamic and aggressive growls throughout this chorus, also utilizes some black metal vocals that really escalates the song into the next level. First 5 songs on this album, they are very good songs, and if it wasn't for the production, the songs would be close to perfection in my opinion. And then you got a very interesting, beautiful string section reverse, then leads on to Master of the Dead, which is an okay song. The Everlong Night as well, very Dark Tranquillity inspired song, especially with the vocals, the guitar work. Some really nice solos throughout that section. Then you got Shores at the Silver Sand, which has a beautiful string section throughout the song that leads on to some really nice guitar work. To end off the album is My Home, My Grave, which is a really good close of the song. It's quite epic feeling, especially with the symphonic elements really ramping things up. It's a great closer and everything, but again, the song just lacks a depth in terms of the guitar tone and also the drumming. But overall, this album was an okay album, I guess. Certainly the riffs are there, certainly the vocals are there, but the production wasn't there, and that is a big letdown in my opinion. The production is a very important factor for an album. If you get the deluxe version as well, you get the song Uprising. Yeah, we don't talk about that song. I didn't like that song. And Mors Principium maybe do it a little bit better in my opinion. They do better than Muse. They do, because it's a lot heavier and grittier. And yeah, it's very interesting, a very interesting cover by this band. The album does lacks in terms of sound. It doesn't have the meekness and heaviness that a normal Mors Principium album does. They overuse the symphonic elements, making it quite epic and grandiose and majestic, sounding very similar to bands such as Flesh God Apocalypse and Septic Flesh, except Flesh God Apocalypse do a hell of a lot better and it doesn't sound cheesy. The vocals are good, some really good melodic catchy moments, some really nice tapping lead guitar, interesting drumming as well, sounds quite mechanical, but overall this album gets a 5.5 out of 10. It's a good album, it is a good album, it's a just above average album, it's an okay album, it really is. Would I go back to it? Probably not. It wouldn't make it in my end of year list as well, and would it make it in my top 10 albums of October? Probably not, So it's a 5.5 out of 10. Interesting album overall, nice guitar work, but yeah, 5.5 out of 10 it gets. So guys, that's where I leave you for Mors Principium Est and the album 7. Comment below whether you agree or disagree with my opinion. Keep discussion going in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.